Guys, what's going on? It's Mike at Mike's Hill Dragon Channel, and tonight I would like to talk about Absolute Wonder Woman. First storyline has wrapped up, and I wanted to go through all 5 issues, talk about what I liked about the story so much in each issue. Um, it was one of the books that I was most maybe not the book I was most skeptical about. I was very skeptical about Absolute Batman. But however, when I initially read the pitch for Absolute Wonder Woman, it was something that when I read it, and basically the description was no Paradise Island, no other Amazons, no invisible jet, no lasso of truth, a demonic skeleton Pegasus. After hearing all that, my expectations for it, I didn't really know what to have. I didn't really know what to expect. Um, because to me, it really seemed like you're stripping down all this stuff of Wonder Woman. It might as well be a brand new character. But I was pleasantly surprised to see that Kelly Thompson, issue in and issue out, even though Diana was in, you know, a whole different, raised in a whole different environment, whole different support system growing up. At her core, she is still the same person, and I was very glad to see that Kelly Thompson was able to portray that Wonder Woman Diana was still true to herself, the one that we know, even with all these extra, um, you know, parts of her story being added. And this version, the new take of her, even with adding all these things to her that they did, and to Wonder Woman, that is, and taking away all the stuff that they did, Kelly Thompson was still able to capture the essence of Wonder Woman. And this book to me was a joy to read, month in and month out. It was, to me, there was never any drop off. It was as strong at issue 5 as it was at issue 1. The creative team, Kelly Thompson, Hayden Sherman, the story they brought us was just really incredible stuff to me. It was very much like my pitch when I tell people about it. I have compared it to the God of War. It's basically been, if imagine Wonder Woman in the God of War, and that's what you get right here. That's how I've been able to describe it to people and pitch it to them as something that they might be interested in. So I wanted to just go through these issues by issue and talk about what I liked. One of the first things I loved this very first page. It's just a beautiful picture of the town where all these events are going to take place. So like a seaside town. And I really love how it's drawn. You've kind of got like a real peaceful sky scene. The water looks very calm. It looks like sunrise, and we know that it's not going to stay this way for long. One of the things I love most about this book is Hayden Sherman's page layouts. There's a lot of instances like this where you have panel, and then you have like these little in-cut panels, which kind of depicts like a close-up effect, like a cutaway that you would have in a movie. And then this is another instance of just a different style of page and panel Hayden Sherman does. The Wonder Woman appearing on the scene, the way the panel kind of is rounded off, and then another rounded off right here with action in the middle. I enjoy that. It creates like a sense of, action and dynamic. You know, it gives it a real dynamic vibe. This was another scene I had talked about that I liked. You know, these first couple pages to me are very much a tone setter. You know, it tells us, you know, like, sorry kids, this, you know, or how's that phrase goes? This isn't your parents' Wonder Woman. You know, this is not a new Wonder Woman, but not the version that we're used to. You know, she lands. She's got this real demonic looking helmet on. She smacks, you know, rubs some demon blood on her face, puts it on as war paint, casts this huge spell. Then we get the. I've loved how the Absolute books have had this, where you get this big double page introduction. It has very much like a movie theater feel. You know, like kind of like how in Star Wars they have the big Star Wars and they have the crawl. You know, and that's kind of like what this feels like right here. You know, like this is the movie title, and you've got all the credits of everyone who contributed. And then right here we get into the origin. And very much it's different than anything we've known. You know, Wonder Woman being carved out of clay by Circe, raised on an island by herself, not having that supporting cast. And this is another thing. We don't think of Circe as someone who could be a compassionate mother, because she's always been one of Wonder Woman's biggest villains. But here she raises Diana, and we start to see, like, this is a really good instance here. Plenty of things tried to kill us, but there was no overwhelming force of creatures bent on her destruction as I had feared. And she had a quality that softened even the most treacherous beasts. And I don't mean all the little creatures and demons and lost souls that drifted to her. How you fall in love with a child is by raising it. So we see that Diana, even though she's raised in this hell dimension, she still has that style or that sense of compassion and empathy that she has in mainline DC. And that's one of the things that I was most impressed by Kelly Thompson's writing. See, even in this page right here, this boy's hurting this tree. I don't like it. You know, even showing compassion and for a tree that somebody's chopping down or whatever it is, that's one thing that we know about Diana from her regular Wonder Woman, is she, you know, cares for all things. And all these pages here, you know, it's just beautiful work by Hayden Sherman. They really are able to encapsulate the passage of time, Diana growing up. You know, so that's how these panels being long like this and stacked up on top of each other, it captures that feel of you know, flashback or montage or whatever. And then this puts us right here into the now. And like I said, this is another thing that I was, you know, very you know, apprehensive about. You know, so you're telling me that Diana's going to ride a skeleton Pegasus? You know, this just seems, it all seemed edgy for the sake of edgy, for lack of a better term. She runs into the army here. And, are you in charge here, soldier? Then that is a no. Where is your superior? So this Wonder Woman here, even though she just showed up on the scene, has no experience in man's world, as they call it, is quick to take charge. And then again, we see more of these Hayden Sherman, these little, these little end cuts, these little small panels that give the kind of shows us that there's motion, there's movement. So we were able to track it. She's like dodging the blast, jumping. In the scenes that Kelly Thompson, that she shows with Cersei, they're some of the most, they're really touching. They're a lot more touching to me, I feel like, than a lot of, maybe because their history is so convoluted, but Diana and the Queen, I can't think of her name right now. Their relationship, Diana and Cersei's relationship, you really get a feel for it and the love that they have for each other more than we get in the mainline Wonder Woman and her mother. Maybe it's just because their story has been around so much, and we, sometimes Diana's mother is, sometimes she's a god, sometimes she's an Amazon, sometimes she's been on man's world, sometimes, sometimes she's a victim. Maybe because their story has had so many different starts and stops and retcons and reimaginings, as opposed to this absolute, where we have basically just this one version that we're seeing. So now here in issue 2, we're having more of these demonic flying creatures attacking Gateway City. And then this is Wonder Woman is using the lasso, or is what she calls Nemesis. And one of the golden lasso that Wonder Woman has in main book, if you're wrapped up in it, you have to tell the truth. You're forced to tell the truth. But this here, as you see in the dialogue, she says, and for you, Harbinger Prime, Nemesis will be a particular hell, for she binds and burns in proportion to your sins, and your soul sins bright with the blood of the innocent. The burn you feel is a result of the pain you have brought to others, which is a very, I don't think that's something I've ever seen before outside. I mean, obviously they have the Man Thing in Marvel Universe, where if you are afraid of him or if you know fear, you burn when you come into contact with him. So now Steve Trevor shows up on the scene, and this, we see how much he means to her. We see him slowly emerge, and just with a single word, it's a look of startlement and one of, kind of a surprise look. She's startled, but yet not afraid. So that shows us that there's a sense of recognition. Steve Trevor's washed up on the sea, or washed up on the Wild Island. She brings him home to meet her mother. They basically give Steve Trevor a little lowdown about what his situation is. This is I like the layout of this page. You have the circle here in the middle. It's broken down. The circle split into threes, each panel. Then you have the scene on top of it, and on the top and on the bottom of it. This was one of my favorite lines right here in issue 2. I mean, I don't want to brag Diana, but I don't think hell was where I was headed. Diana just simply replies, well, does anyone? Which I think that's a very, that's a very truthful statement. No one ever thinks they deserve that fate. And Diana, that kind of shows some of her wisdom. In another scene that we see right here, Diana's introduction to Steve's superior officer, and we see Diana is basically not emotionless, but she remains calm in the face of this guy who thinks leadership and strategy is volume and yelling. And she breaks it down. She goes, I understand your position, Commander. I'm an outsider and something you cannot control, and that frustrates you. This is not my problem. And the whole time, Diana is just cool, calm, and collective about this whole situation. She's a true warrior. And she's really giving the lowdown to these soldiers about what's coming their way. She heads out into the town. And about this time, another monster attacks. Now, this monster here, just the size of it, it's I described it as being very Cthulhu-like. Being very Cthulhu looking, just a giant monstrous form. I think this is called the Tetracide. Yeah, the Tetracide leaves nothing behind. And then this sense of scale shows what she's up against. It's totally dwarfing her. It's basically like a mountain is headed her way. We issue 3. In issue 3 here, we see at the Gateway City Museum, Barbara I want to say she ends up becoming, isn't Barbara Minerva? I believe that's her name. In the regular series, she becomes Cheetah. Wonder Woman's giving these guys the lowdown. And her explaining what the Tetracide does, and Hayden Sherman having it be as like pictures on a ancient Greek vase, or whatever this is, a vase or a jug or what have you. It looks really cool. We see a lot of, when you look at a lot of different scenes of stuff set in ancient times, this is one. I think in the Disney movie Hercules, they had a bunch of scenes that were like this, with the art and stuff being in this style of the classic Greek or whatever. The classic Greek style. She explains what the Tetracide does. Very soon, the Tetracide will begin to emanate a sound. It will be loud and sharp. It will travel for miles. And when people hear that sound, they'll be drawn to it, like bees to honey. They will do anything to be with that sound. They will walk right into the Tetracide's jaws, where one dies in agony, a death of mind, body, and soul. And the death of soul, I don't want to be dramatic, but the people who are crushed to death in the race will be the lucky ones. So apparently your soul dying is a fate worse than being trampled to death. So the Tetracide, in addition to being this really huge monster, also is like a siren. It emanates this sound that draws you to it, and you will stop at nothing to get there. So we have some really cool action scenes right here. Then we got the great title page. Another flashback to back on the island. I know a lot of people don't like Steve Trevor because he just, I think a lot of people feel like he doesn't contribute anything to Wonder Woman as a character, and he's just there to be her love interest. But I feel like in this book, he's more than that. He actually gets a chance to be a well-developed character. He's shown as a soldier, career soldier, but yet he's in this world that's out of his area of expertise. But even though he's a career soldier, he's willing to defer to Diana and take her advice and listen to her about her, her home, because he knows this is so far removed for anything. And see, here's another instance of Wonder Woman showing her compassion. The Hydra is trying to kill her, trying to kill Steve, and Wonder Woman, is talking to the Hydra and telling it, "Don't make me kill you. We can be in peace. We can all live together. There's no need for me to kill you, and there's no need for you to die." And Steve talks to her and tells her, "Couldn't really understand you, but I'm sorry it pushed me to such lengths. I shouldn't have let it get that far." Unclear if most creatures can, but not all. What it certainly understands is strength. And then she gives him Steve. So it's kind of. I'm not sure if she ended up killing this thing or not. But it sure seems like she did everything in her power not to. But she tells him that one of the things we always associate with Wonder Woman is being an ambassador of love. And she tells Steve, love is transformative, Steve, always. So even here, amongst this hell dimension, or whatever you want to call this, she still is the same Diana, the same Wonder Woman that we know. In the regular DC. This is great. She realizes her purpose here. She tells her mother, "I couldn't stop thinking about what my mission is. If I am a great warrior and will someday be an even greater one, a savior of humanity, as you say, then I cannot fail in my first mission for humanity. To return them one of their great heroes. One good man is all it takes to save the world." Talking about Steve. He wasn't a gift, mother. He was a test. And Cersei knows what, in reference, Diana's talking to. And like any mother that loves her child, she's going to, wants the best for her daughter. And Diana has sacrificed herself. She cuts her arm off in order to cast this spell to return Steve back to man's world, or however you want to phrase it. So that's when we learn that she's missing an arm, and that this is just some sort of clay facsimile or whatever. Seeing Steve recognizes it. This is how you got me out. You gave them a hero's arm. I believe I called it a warrior's arm. I think I got closer. And Diana tells him it was more than worth it. And she's starting to kind of lose her cool because she knows that the Terrasite is getting closer and closer. Yeah, see, this is Barbara Minerva. And so we have Diana. She runs into the camera people from the very first issue. And then she wants to talk to the city, to the people that live there. And then she tells people, this is one of my favorite lines right here. Many of you do not believe me, but I assure you, you're about to become believers. Panic and the chaos that brings will now be almost as deadly as the Tetracide itself. I came here to save your city, but today it seems it will be up to each of you to save your city instead. I know you can do it. Wonder Woman believes in you. So she says, she's basically telling the people, the population, I can stop this monster, but I need you to save yourselves. I need you guys to not allow yourselves not to get brainwashed, not to fall victim to this monster's cry and get caught up in its spell. Don't panic in any of the stuff that's about to happen. And then we meet Etta Candy, who's a callback to one of the Golden Age characters of Wonder Woman. And so these people here, they basically run a magic shop. And Wonder Woman goes there for a magic spell. So she gets all this, all these herbs and spices and, all this other type of stuff that she uses to cast the spell. And they're all eavesdropping right here. These pages here are some of my favorite from Hayden Sherman. Specifically this one. This one, the way the page is laid out, it really, to me, and I'm probably wrong about this, even though Cersei is in the middle praying, and we see each panel has her in it, it feels like the overall looks like her headshot. That's what this looks like to me. This looks like hair. So all of this looks like it's framing her right here. And I really, really dug that look. And then we see what Wonder Woman, her spell accomplished. Basically got her another arm. And she's covered in blood for it. Blood magic. So now we're getting towards the end here. Wonder Woman's cast that spell that's made all of the city unable to hear the Tetraside's call. She's got her arm back. Now she's riding off to battle. And her sword is so cool. This is such a cool ass sword. Look how it grows. It's this big. Then it's this big. Then it's this big. It's such a over the top sword. And this is just her slicing this thing right in half. And she takes time out. She goes, Mother, though I'm far from home, give me your strength, your conviction, your indomitable will. All traits that her mother has basically passed on to her. These are all things that Diana possesses. The same as the Diana in our universe, or the mainline universe, or whatever, possesses. And then this is the last issue. You see her sword shrinking in size, returning to something more comfortable for her to carry, I guess you would say. The government's got involved. Rockets and everything are shooting the Tetracide. And then Wonder Woman flies up beside this guy. This is a great page. Hi. So I need you to not do that again. Okay? Do not do that again, all right? Yes, ma'am. Just a really cool shot of her telling the Air Force guy or the Navy pilot, hey, you're fucking making things worse. Now this is a different lasso that she has here. This is not the Nemesis. This is another lasso, she says. And I named her, what is that? I don't even know what that is. I don't even know if that's, I don't think that's English. I think that's some sort of magic word. She will hold anything, Diana, and she will transform anything, but what she holds determines the shape of the transformation. So we're going to see what all that means here shortly. So now we see Diana. She's been having conversations with the god Hecate. I believe it's Hecate. And she's asking her about her mother, how she feels about her mother and this weapon. And she tells her mother, you are the greatest, you are so powerful, the greatest sorceress to ever live. You have taught me all I know. You loom like any mother over a child. You cast such a shadow, it is easy for me to forget that you have not been freely given all that I have given. You are self-made like a great stone carved through horror and pain. And that's like any parent. You know, Cersei has taken choices from herself, opportunities that she would have had. She passed on them, didn't take, then, you know, she's making sure that Diana is in a better situation that Cersei is. It's kind of like how your mom has to work, you know, 3 jobs to support you, so she doesn't get a chance to have a life. Meanwhile, she's working 3 jobs so you can have your, you know, soccer practice and new clothes and everything. So she's sacrificing so her child will live. Diana will have more than she had. Now this is probably one of the this was one of the most oh shit moments of the whole series. She takes the lasso and wraps it around her, and it basically morphs her into a Medusa. So I can honestly say that I was reading when I was reading this, I did not see any of this coming. You know, so not only is she Medusa, she's also like a fucking kaiju Medusa. And then she uses her stone gaze on the Tetracide, turns it to stone. And then Barbara Minerva, she goes, it's dead. Why is she still Medusa? Maybe it's not that simple. If you become something else, how do you remember what you were? So basically, when she turned into this giant monster, she has forgotten that she is in reality Wonder Woman. So she's kind of, the form of Medusa has overpowered her. And Steve says, "Your friends remind you." Etta Candy says, "Steve, you're not going out there." And Steve just says, "Etta, she cut off her own arm to get me out of hell. There's no scenario where I leave her out there alone." And Steve walks out there and talks Diana, tells her who she is, what she stands for, and is basically able to get her to is able to, talk her back to get her to remember who she is, and she transforms back into Diana. And Steve, it looks like he's crying here. So he's very emotional right here. It's been a hell of an adventure, so to speak. So now we have this giant tetracide rock statue here, and she just destroys it. She flies into it, busts all the rock up or everything. So that is the wrap up. She has introduced herself to Gateway City. She has destroyed the tetracide. Everyone is sitting here. This is her little cast of characters, her supporting characters: Barbara Minerva, Etta Candy, Steve. So everything just looks like happy days ahead of us. Then this hole opens. Some sort of energy hand reaches out of it, grabs her, and pulls her down. And Etta Canada just goes, "What the fuck?" Next issue, hell is what you make of it. So not only did Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman, do a great job with this story, but also they give you this page here out of nowhere, absolutely hook to bring you back next month. So if you just thought, "Oh, this was really good. Everyone ends happily. Everything ends happily ever after. The city's safe." What? You've got to now. What happened to Wonder Woman? I've got to find out what happened to Wonder Woman. I've got to pick up next issue. So you'll be here. So that is Wonder Woman issue 1 through 6, or 1 through 5. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Absolute Batman. Absolute Batman, their first story arc is 6 issues, as opposed to the 5 that Absolute Wonder Woman is, because they had a fill-in issue. And like I said, it's just a really great series. I think Wonder Woman right now is an incredible It's in an incredible place. Not only you have Absolute Wonder Woman as being really good, you've got the Tom King Wonder Woman book as being really good as well, and has been good for quite some time now. So Wonder Woman has two. You might not be able to to argue this point, but Wonder Woman does have 2 good series now, even though one of them is a out of continuity revamped Wonder Woman. But when this comes out in trade paperback, if you guys haven't read it by now, I highly recommend it. I'm definitely going to double dip, and I'm going to pick it up in trade once it comes out, because I enjoy it that much. And also, if I'm ever at a con and Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman are there, it's something I want to tell them that I appreciate the work they did on it and get them to sign it. So this has been my review and recommendation for Absolute Wonder Woman 1 through 5. Just a great series from start to finish. I can't say that enough. And I was so happy that they stuck the landing, because, when you read a book, I was talking to somebody about this. When you read a book, you want, just like a movie, you want them to get the ending right. Just like a movie or a wrestling match, if it's from point A to point B, if from point A to point B are really great, but they don't get point C, it's got a shitty finish, a shitty ending, it takes away from the whole experience. I can enjoy a book, or a movie where the first 85 to 90% of it is average at best. But if you hook me with the last 15 or 10% of it, if you nail the landing and you give me something really good, that just changes the mood of the whole experience to me. To me, you got to get the ending right. And that's what I was so worried about with this book. As I enjoyed it more and more month to month, I just kept thinking to myself, oh my God, please don't fuck up the ending. Please don't fuck up the ending. I'm all in on this right now. So, because there's nothing that takes the air out of your sails than a bad ending. But I'm happy to report that this book here doesn't do that. Doesn't fall victim to that. So, till next time, I will talk to you guys later. Y'all have a good night and pick up Absolute Wonder Woman. Get the first trade. Put it on your pull list. Trust me, you're going to like it. Talk to you guys later. Bye bye.